Trading Nut, episode 87.
And logically, we just thought about, okay, why is it going to this spot and then coming back? Well, then you figure out, okay, that's probably where people are losing, right? So we're looking at areas where are their resting orders now, right? So we're always thinking in different terms than the normal retail trader will think.
The market's going to do something. Your job is not to fight it.
The market never, ever runs away. It's always there.
That personal diary of trading will make you a much better trader than...
I could be right about the direction, but wrong about the trade.
Don't focus on the monetary side.
Trying to make too much money on a trade is what I have seen killed every trader.
Your losses offer you some of the greatest insight you can find into your mistakes.
Relax, learn the process.
Candlestick pattern trading is a freaking trap.
Don't be in a rush to become a millionaire.
Let the market tell you what the market wants to tell you.
This podcast is not financial, trading, or investing advice of any kind. Before we start, I'd like to thank our sponsored partner for today's episode, City Traders Imperium. Now, CTI has one of the world's best funded accounts and learning platforms all in one. Get a CTI Forex funded account today and advance a step closer to achieving your personal freedom. To find out more, head over to citytradersimperium.com. That's citytradersimperium.com. What's up, traders? Welcome to another installment of the Trading Nut podcast. I'm your host, Cam Hawkins, and today we've got Chris Hunter on the show, otherwise known as Hunter FX. So, folks, we've got him on. It's a fantastic wee interview, and what you're going to find, what I found quite interesting was the fact that he had such a unique approach to breaking down the market. So how he sort of came up with his own trading strategy. It's really unique. We go into that in a lot of detail. So it's going to give you some ideas, going to give you some hints in terms of how you can potentially come up with your own strategy, and at least give you a really good insight into how Chris, how he sees the markets as well. So guys, that's coming up in just a second. Now, before we get into that, I do want to remind you that I've got a new thing that I'm doing on the YouTube channel over there at Trading Nut. It's called TradingView Replay Challenge. So I'm getting guys from the past guests of the show back on to take a TradingView Replay Challenge, which means it's like backtesting mode, manual backtesting. They've got to take an entry and exit, and we calculate how many they make over that period of time of 5 trades. And there's a little leaderboard. We're seeing who's winning, who's losing, and all that sort of stuff. Guys, it's worthwhile checking out just purely for the fact that you're going to get a massive insight into how these guys approach the markets, and it'll help your trading no end. There's also a bar-by-bar challenge we do for a bit of fun as well. So, guys, head over there. Make sure you subscribe and click on the little all button next to the bell, because that will get you alerts when this thing goes live, so you can watch these guys live and lob in a few comments here and there. So we've got that over there at YouTube, as well as the Build That Bot series, where I'm building robots from past guests of the show. So these are strategy ideas that they're coming up with. And I've got to tell you, we did one with Chris as well, so that's going to come up in the future, so stay tuned for that. So after you've listened to this interview, you're going to see a little video from him, but then we shot a Build That Bot video as well. Now, if you are interested in like even dipping your toe in the water on the whole automated trading side of things, then I do have a course where I teach you how to build trading robots in 21 days, or you can do it less if you want. If there's currently a promo on for August, check underneath, or check in on the site, check in the show notes, check in the description, wherever you're listening to this, watching this, then check there. You'll find probably what that promo is for the course. There's also a free training I do as well, where you can basically get yourself skilled up from somebody who's got no idea about trading robots to at least be able to play with one. I'm going to give you one that I use myself. You're going to be able to put that on a chart and see how it works. So folks, that's stuff that you can do here on Trading Nut. But for now, let's just get on with the show and welcome Chris and hear his full story. Let's do it. All right, folks, here we are on Trading Nut. We've got Chris Hunter on the show, all the way from Vancouver. How are things over there, Chris?
Yeah, it's actually been fantastic here in Vancouver. It's been super, super hot. And in this attic of an apartment of mine, I got the AC just always blasted here. But you're asking me about COVID there, and I think in Vancouver we're pretty much clean sailing here. I have a theory that because we have such a large Asian population around here, that everyone got it like right in like December, January, and everyone's just kind of immune now. So I've been walking around just as normal. Much worry like the States there right now, but
wow, that's incredible. You'd think that you're only a stone's throw away from the the States where it's just going crazy. that with their second phase, if people are listening to this in the future, that you'd at least have something significant. But oh well, that's good. It's good news. It sounds like where I am at the moment, where in New Zealand, it's basically happy days. Apart from the fact that we can't actually go anywhere outside of the country.
Yeah. I heard New Zealand they just completely locked down immediately. They were like the best country. And your guys' prime minister is remarkable, I believe. It's a female prime minister, right?
Yeah. Look, I mean, they did well in terms of locking it down. I mean, and it did help, and it's pretty much stopped it. But look, it also helps that we're 3-hour plane flight away from the next country, so nobody's crossing over the border here. Trust me, nobody's walking over the border or swimming across to get here. So it's controlled, which is good. Now, look, today we're going to talk about your trading career to date, how you got into it. So, do you want to start off by giving us your full background story, and I'll dive in a bit deeper here and there.
Oh, full background. Okay, so June 26, 1994. I was born in. Just kidding. So I started off with kind of like an IT background. I knew right away going into IT, it wasn't for me. I just kind of did it because I like video games, and quickly you learn to not like video games as you get older. So I knew that I had to get out of it at some point. But being in IT, it gives you a really nice segue into all of these crypto IT nerds and all of those perks of knowing about crypto, right? So 2017 came around, and my buddy that we were in school with basically said, "Hey, this crypto thing, man, I got the inside scoop on it, right? You're gonna get rich, like with this, pulls his jacket full of watches, says Bitcoin everywhere." And he sells me Bitcoin on the side of the street. But yeah, just kidding. But yeah, we got into Bitcoin kind of before that boom there. We made a little bit of money, went a little euphoric, and partied it up. And then we starting to trade. Like, we're like, okay, this is going up. Maybe we can buy these different altcoins and we can make even more money. And that worked well. So we kind of got hooked onto it, making this great cash, thinking we're just like the best traders ever. And then kind of the crash came around, and we started seeing all of our money go away, and we're trying to save it by trading. But reality was we were just losing more now by trading. And then we realized we were actually just shitty traders. So we started looking at like kind of other means. So we jumped into Forex with a small little community I had there, and kind of geared crypto to more as an investment platform. And speaking of which, right now, I've been throwing tons into crypto over the past year, and I think it's going to be going up here. So if anyone wants to get into that, I am very confident in that too. But looking at Forex, it's got much better structure, right? With crypto, it's very emotionally driven retail mindset where people get hyped into cycles, and then it goes completely bonkers, and you never know when it's going to stop. So there's no structure to how to actually trade. And that's what I realized when I came into Forex, was that banks traded a certain way, and they always kind of followed the same rules. These big guys with money, they moved the markets, right? And we started studying the logic behind why things were happening, right? We didn't want to find just like a strategy that worked. We started looking at, okay, why is this candle going in this direction at certain times of the day? Why is it going past? Thinking about things like where are other people losing money, so that we can know where to get into trades, things like this, things that people don't normally think about when they're first starting about it. And then we kept playing around with strategies after we had figured that logic, right? And then we eventually came up to little bits of strategies. And then because I had that IT background, this allowed me to basically think very data-driven. So I collected probably a total of 1,000 data points across various strategies, and plugged in the numbers and figured out what is the exact win rate if I follow these rules, what is the exact R I will make back in return, what is, the different variables that will add or subtract to the profit, right? Things like this. And we just kept refining that until we found something that was actually profitable in a certain way here.
And what sort of things were you testing in that sample size of 1,000?
Yeah, so these are different. I just said 1,000 kind of as a rough statement. The one that I really dug deep on, I had 500 data points, and that was for one strategy. All of the strategies I was using, or I was using, were just candlestick based. So to put it kind of roughly is, I don't like indicators. Partially, I first didn't want to use them because I liked the charts very clean. And all of these lines, they crossed over, and it made me very,
dizzy,
emotional, right? Kind of to put it. Yeah. And then I quickly realized that with fewer indicators, you have fewer conflicting points of view, right? So you only really need to follow one pattern that you see on the chart then, rather than saying, this indicator is pointing that direction, but this one is conflicting with it. So what do I do now, right? When you have conflicting views, you don't know what to do, and then you make emotionally driven decisions. So that's kind of like the logic I'm trying to explain here of the way I think that I need just a core data to just follow blindly, and I don't have to think. So I've now created a system that I just don't think anymore. When I'm trading, I say, okay, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. If they all are there, then we enter the trade. So you said, what kinds of things do I, what was I testing? I largely looked into areas of manipulation. So what was happening when these massive moves would happen, and then they would move back in the other directions. So what the very, very common thing that I found very quickly was there would be quick moves behind levels and then back within the level. So this is so simple. I'm sure tons of your viewers know what I'm talking about. The sweep action, the sweep movement there, where it stops you out and then it comes back into the range.
Right. Yes, of course. Yep.
Yeah. And logically, we just thought about, okay, why is it going to this spot and then coming back? Well, then you figure out, okay, that's probably where people are losing, right? So we're looking at areas where are their resting orders now, right? So we're always thinking in different terms than the normal retail trader will think. So the other thing that we look for is, so where are stops was the first thing I meant to say, but the other thing we look for is where are the resting orders, because the resting orders is likely where things are going to change, right? So we have to then think about how are we going to find where people have resting limit orders, right? And there was two major things that I came across was highs and lows, and that's simply because that was a previous pivot point, right? That where market pressure was reversed at that level, right? So what I mean by that is there was no longer enough buyers coming into the market to fill all of the resting orders. So now we know that there's still resting orders in that spot, right? Because that's what made us pivot. The next place we realized that there were resting orders is major momentous moves, like you've seen these big sticks, right? These big candles, those fast ones. That basically is telling me in the back of my head that there were a lot of people that got left behind because one came in and said, I don't want to trade this range anymore. And then he blew them out of the water, and now there's a bunch of people waiting to get their orders filled there that didn't get filled, that want to get filled, right? But those are two major points. Maybe I'm giving away a lot of stuff here, a lot of juice, but
yeah, look, it is very useful stuff, and I think what I found interesting there is the fact that you didn't go down that normal retail route, and you decided to completely do it yourself. Is that right, or did you have some sort of delving into the YouTube videos and learning through other means?
Yeah, so totally. When I started with Forex and everything, everyone, they jumped to YouTube, right? And I guarantee nearly everyone watching this right now, they're gonna be kind of in that stage, right? And YouTube will only get you so far. It's very, very, you have to be very selective with what you're listening to, right? When I started, I think there was a strategy that was just simply like a an RSI crossover with the Bollinger Bands or something like that. And I tried it out for a while and it just didn't work. I lost a ton of money. And I think it's just kind of like a bunch of strategies people think might work and then they throw them on there for views. So you realize that if it's on YouTube, it's probably not working, right? Because then everyone would be making money, right?
Yeah.
Or everyone's like, watch that video at least. So that was kind of my view going into it. So I said, okay, we have to make our own logic, our own strategy behind things. And then the best way to go about it, if you still need help, is talk to people that you can trust, right? So maybe people on Twitter that you know are like being profitable somehow. You have to vet them somehow, right?
And who did you, or how did you go about that? Like, I mean, vetting these people that, well, you know, were obviously worthwhile to go and reproach because they were going to give you information that potentially could help you out. Yeah,
so it is a long process. I was on crypto Twitter, which is much more vocal, I suppose, than I think they call it FinTwit, financial Twitter. And there's not really as much of a Forex Twitter in my own thought as crypto. Crypto Twitter is huge. And I was on there for a couple of years, and I kind of learned like who seemed like they knew what they're talking about, who was always more or less right. They knew what was going on. And then I would start listening to them. Some of them were kind of crap. So it really is like a give and take long process of figuring out who's going to be good. But then, you know, I started just talking to some of these people in regular groups, right, and seeing what they actually knew. And a couple of them I think I might have paid for like 3 mentorships over the course of a year or so. And one of them was even after I was profitable because I just wanted more point of view, right?
Yeah.
On a similar strategy.
And so your road to profitability, I mean, it's sounding sort of fantastic. You've got these systems that you've discovered. Now, how did that sort of first endeavor into an actual, you know, placing trades on a chart look?
Yeah, so as I was kind of mentioning before, the data points, right? So what I did was I went back and I used that bar replay feature on TradingView, and I thought of my idea, right? Whatever it was, you know, if there's 3 candles in a row, for example, then I'm going to enter something like that. But that's silly. And then I would put the position tool on the chart, treat it as if I was actually taking that trade, and then just log it every single time, right? So once I had so many data points, I think I would do 50 on a strategy. If 50 data points showed that I was profitable in terms of R, right? So if I lose, -1R. If I win, whatever it is. If it showed I was profitable, then I would live trade it and I would collect a bunch more data points as well. And I think the one I went up to like 500 data points before I stopped tracking it, something like that. And then I would be able to get the exact percentage of win rate. So for example, that last one I was running, I think I had about a 50, just slightly less than 50. It was like 48%, something like that, win rate, and a 1.9 R profitability on wins, right?
Right.
So slightly profitable.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've refined it a little bit since then. I don't know the exact number now, but it's, you know, it's maybe a little bit more than that.
Cool. And so I mean, this sounds fantastic. So we're at now, I mean, how much more advanced are you from, you know, when you first started becoming profitable?
Yeah, when I first started, it was a very simple, the simplest strategy I knew is actually still basically one of the best ones I know, and it was just a simple sweep range-based trade. I would see a ranging market, and I would wait for the sweep, the wick past the range, and then I'd wait for it to close back within the range. So simple. And then I would target the opposite side of the range. Right. Incredibly simple, and it worked very well. I've actually refined that strategy to also include lower time frames to confirm that it's actually doing something. And I won't really explain it right now, but we can kind of look at that in the future.
Okay, cool. Well, look, let's dive into what your trading stats look like. So you talked about 50 odd % win rate. Has it changed? Is it much higher than that now, or with these refinements?
Yeah. So the different strategies I use, I basically have one trend trading strategy and one counter trend trading strategy, and they're both roughly about the same. The counter trend trading strategy, slightly lower win rate, maybe low 50s, and it has a higher average R. That's like at least 2R. And then the trend trading strategy, a little bit higher win rate, 55%, something like that. And then making a little bit less than 2R, so maybe like 1.5R or something on the wins, right?
That's interesting. I thought the trend one would have been having a bigger R, just because you're trading with the trend and you can potentially follow it longer, which is funny.
Yeah, but the actual way that it's working here for me is when I trade the trend, I'm essentially looking for a pullback in the trend, and then I jump to the low time frame, and then I'm looking for a reversal back into that same trend, right? And then I'm just targeting the previous highs, right? That's kind of how I'm trading the trend, because I don't know when that trend's going to end. I don't know it's going to keep making new higher highs, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's a little bit shorter. But when I do the counter trend trade, it's more of like a range-based thing. So I'm looking for a wider range, right?
And have you sort of, I suppose, played with scaling out of trades and keeping a runner going and all that sort of stuff to in case it does break through that that high and then carry on with a longer trend?
Totally. Yeah. So I've used this program called Edgewonk. It's a journaling software that I advanced to that after I realized Excel just wasn't doing it for me anymore. And it kind of gives me the option to treat each trade as, multiple trades. So I could say, I want to take this trade, but I'm going to have an alternate strategy for this trade. So I would then write in my stats for if I had taken profits at different times, right? And then you can determine what's most profitable for you and then switch to that. So for example, I was testing my take profit timing, and I roughly found that my most profitable taking profits was right around my final take profit, around 2 to 3R, and I would take one profit roughly about halfway through that at about 1R, a little bit more than 1R.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, look, what about the markets that you're trading? How many markets are you trading?
In terms of markets, are you just talking about pairs, or are you talking about...
Yeah, pairs, or if you trade gold or something like that.
Yeah, so I pretty much exclusively trade Forex now, and it's essentially the higher volume pairs, because I am trading strictly on the New York Open for only about 2 hours, and I don't even trade every day, so I'm essentially just looking for the cheapest trade. I don't want these wide spreads, and I don't want to be sitting in a trade for very long. In terms of other markets, I am invested in crypto, but I will not be trading it.
Okay. So, all right, and with that, you're talking about just buying and holding, and
yeah,
and that's
my exit price is 2023.
Okay,
I'm
right.
I'm gonna sell in 3 years.
I mean, what are your view? You mentioned earlier that you think crypto's on its rise up again. I mean, I used to ask the question in the show, and even in my previous podcast around, and this was probably around the time you would have started trading, which was 2017, because Bitcoin had this massive rally and it got to 20,000, and then it tanked, and then everyone got on board, and then it was like this huge hype, and here we go. Now you're sort of saying, look, it's back on its roll again. What are your sort of predictions potentially around Bitcoin?
As in terms of the price?
In terms of if it's going to eclipse 20,000 again, and how far do you think it could go?
So if we go based off of, hopefully everyone kind of understands the mathematics of limits, right? So, kind of the calculus, the limit of a logarithmic graph is basically what Bitcoin is approaching. And assuming Bitcoin doesn't completely, change the world somehow, and the dollar doesn't completely crash to zero. I think the current limit 300K following the same trajectory, right? So if we follow a market cycle that it's been doing, that I think is every 4 years it goes into a new market cycle, and it grows by exponentially less each time. And I've plotted it all out. You don't need to give you all the details, but I think it should be roughly around 100K as our peak for the current market cycle, and that would be ending right around 2023, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. There's a couple other ways to analyze this, and there's a guy on YouTube, I forget what his name is, but he analyzes it from a bunch of different possibilities and different data sets, and every single time he's kind of getting like similar numbers too, right around a bit over 100K, something like that. So I think 100K is going to be 100K is probably going to be pretty safe for an investment.
What's your typical trading day look like?
My typical trading day, yeah, totally. So the trading itself is it's pretty damn short. I wake up, I'm in Vancouver. So actually I used to do something super, super weird. I'll jump on that. I used to wake up at the London Open, which is midnight, and then I would trade until the London close, so 8 a.m., and then I would take a 4-hour nap, and then I'd be awake again, and I would do my work and all that stuff, and then I would go to bed again at 8 p.m. for 4 hours. And that was crazy, because I wanted the London and the New York Open, right?
Yeah.
But you start going insane. Being in Vancouver, and then you're like sleeping during the day. It's so hot. And I did the biggest problem was I didn't know what day of the week it was. I would sleep friggin' 10 times, and then it would be Tuesday. I don't know. But currently, I've refined it to something somewhat normal. Wake up 5 a.m. That's the New York Open. I manage my signal group and my traders there. It's like a multi-trader signal group, so we got to all manage each other. And I take my trades. I probably only take a few a week at this point, right? Because I'm just looking for the best. And then I'm done at the London close. After that, we do a stream on the London close, an hour stream on YouTube there, and talk about the day. And then we do some YouTube. We go to the gym, make dinner with the wife, all this fun stuff.
Cool. Okay, well, it's funny you mention it, because back in the day when I started trading Forex, I was like, oh, New Zealand, we're screwed here. We can't trade anything because of the time zone. And I actually never delved in enough to work it out that it's actually not a bad time zone. And we get Asian session. We get if you wanted to trade the end of the New York, which I don't, but you could do that. And you get the London Open. What you miss is the big move in New York. That's what you miss, which isn't the end of the world, because you can still pick up trades outside of that.
Isn't it about 4 p.m. is the London Open for you guys?
London Open's about 6 to 8 p.m. depending on if it's British summertime or New Zealand summertime or whatever it is. So that's London Open. So like New York Open's sort of 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning. And
so that's fine though, because then you can you're just already used to the nightlife, and on the weekend you can go out clubbing.
Yeah, well, that's what I'd never realised. I never realised that. I was like, I'd sort of just discounted it and gone, oh, well, look, it's never going to work. And I don't know, it took me years to actually go, hang on a sec, this isn't a bad time. This is actually not a bad time. Yeah. And so now I'm much more relaxed about it. But that's what got me into trading with robots and building robots, thinking that, oh, well, I'm never going to be able to be here at the right time, and so I'm going to build all these robots. Anyway, look, I think this next question is quite interesting, because I think you are very different from almost every other trader I've had on the show. And look, I've had over 200, mate.
Oh my god!
And so, because this is the second podcast, they had the first podcast as well.
You probably say that all to all the girls you bring over, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
You're a very different girl.
but I think you're I mean, what do you think made you different from other people out there who are hitting this industry, wanting to make a buck because that's why people are in it, and you managed to craft out a way to make profit from it. I mean, what do you think made you different? Traits, actions that you took?
Oh my god, traits. It's largely, if I have to kind of say like the root of things, I would have to kind of give props to my mom in a sense. She is someone who is probably one of the smartest people I know. She's got multiple degrees. One of them is a PhD, multiple degrees in many different subjects, and someone who's just always kind of learning. And the way that she would talk to me and stuff as a child was very like analytical and logic driven behind things. We were very critical thinking type of family, I suppose, rather than like going based off of emotions and things like this. And I can't be too specific with that, and I'm sure everyone kind of thinks that they're logical people. But if I had to give some sort of props somewhere, it would have been a natural route there. And then on top of that, going into IT, I know it changed the way I think because I was a programmer, right? So you do the same programming stuff, right? You make the bots, and you have to think procedurally, right?
You got to think like a robot, basically.
Yeah, very very simplistic, right?
Yeah.
You can't kind of do everything at once. You say this, then this, then this, or that, right? And that's kind of, if you combine that with a very critical way of life, it's probably a good combo for trading in at least the sense. Even though I'm an incredibly insanely emotional person, I got mad and punched a hole in the wall one time, but that's keep that in the keep that in the kitchen or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know where I think
it's quite interesting because I think the critical thinking is massive. That's massive. We haven't heard that one yet. I thought you were going to say you're curious, but critical thinking I think is huge because it's because most people just will they won't critically think. They'll just go on we mentioned, go on YouTube and have a look and go, oh yeah, okay, that's how you do it. Great, I'll just copy that. Whereas you were like, yeah, but hang on a sec. If everyone's copying it,
what's the logic behind it, right?
It doesn't work. It won't work then. Yeah, exactly.
You got to think what's the reasoning behind everything, right? And if it doesn't make sense, it's probably not right. The other thing there I could add is I have an extreme addictive personality, and that has gotten me in a lot of trouble in the past. But when you can focus it on something productive, then you can basically be very successful in that sense, right? But it's kind of a hard balance, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things. Yeah, like the most successful people are obsessive compulsive to a certain degree.
Yeah, you have to be obsessed about something at all times, basically.
Yeah. Now, if you're one of the listeners out there, retail trader, working a day job, what steps would you recommend they take to start, becoming profitable?
Yeah, good question. Working a day job. So it's going to depend where you live. So if you're in Vancouver, time zone same as me or whatever, I think if you're trading Forex at least, you're going to have to figure out if you're going to be able to day trade, or you're going to be able to swing trade, right? You can swing trade no matter what. But if you want to be a day trader and you're working a job, it's going to depend on where you live, right? So if you're living in Vancouver here, sure, you can wake up at 5 a.m. and do what I do, and you can trade for 2 hours before you go to work. That's perfectly fair. But if you're in New York time zone, not going to work, because you're not going to be able to trade during that same open, because you're going to be at work for your opening shift, right? And you're probably busiest right when you open your shift too, right? Unless you're doing, unless you're working at the bar or something like that, right? and it's a night shift. London time zone, you might be able to get it in at like the end of the day. I don't know the exact timing there for you, but you might be able to get like the New York Open or something like that, or a little bit later to the New York. But I wouldn't be trading after the London close because then the volume is just kind of shit, right? So you're really gonna have to figure out, you know, what style of trading you're gonna be able to do if you are working that day job, right? And then, you know, if you do have to focus on the swing trading, then what I would do is I would sit down and I would only ever look at the chart once a day. And that will really control some psychological issues that you'll have. That would be over analyzing the chart and the trade that you're currently in if you're checking it multiple times a day as you're at work. So once you're done work, then, you know, you look at the chart, you say, okay, what's going on today? You look at the daily candles, you look at the 1 hour candles. You only need 2 time frames, I suppose. And then, you know, you make a trade or you place a limit order or something, and then you look at it the next day, right? And if it made you money, great. If it didn't, you know, also great because you learned something.
Okay, cool. So what about looking at a price chart? I mean, you mentioned timeframes there. What 3 things would you recommend a novice trader educate themselves on when they're starting out?
Okay. So looking at the actual chart itself, I'm going to be extremely specific to only price action based trading because I think everything else is useless in a sense. It can be helpful, but I think it doesn't tell you anything that price can't tell you. So in a sense, it's useless. First thing, learn the best way that you want to define trend. You have to define trend in a very strict way. You don't just say it's going down, right? You have to figure out, okay, what, I don't want to be too specific because I want to make you guys think about this thing because it's kind of, if you can define things for yourself, then you're going to get a lot of confidence and you're going to be able to figure it out on your own later on. But figure out, define trend in some way, and then figure out where is there possible areas that it could reverse, right? So there's only really 2 things that you're going to need to know when you're trading, essentially, is what direction is it going and what direction could it change, right? And I don't think I need a third thing actually here. So if it's not near an area that it could change, it's going to keep going that same direction until it gets to that area, right? It's just as simple as that. So if you can analyze where it could change trend, then you're going to just continue following the trend until it gets there.
And what things would you potentially recommend they use to try and determine when it will stop?
When it will stop, so it's kind of what I spoke on earlier. Where are there going to be resting orders? So essentially for me is the big ones are extreme quick moves, because that's then telling me that there's resting orders there that were left behind, and pivot points, major highs and lows. The more obvious the high and low, the more obvious that is a pivot point. The other thing you could look at is just periods of consolidation. That could work at a lesser scale, but it's not something that interests me too much.
Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
what about thinking about a trader's mindset? So do you have any special techniques around, helping with psychology?
Trader's mindset. So you have to, again, create some sort of rule-based system for you, or you're going to be acting emotionally, right? And emotions are the worst things that you can ever have in every situation in life. Emotions will make you useless. So a good rule is limiting how much you can lose in a day. If I can just kind of say like one good one, people go on losing streaks, whatnot. Just basically tell yourself, I will only allow myself to lose 2 trades a day. If you're a day trader, you lose 2, you stop trading, and then you're not going to be driven by all of this emotional, hate towards yourself and your actions or whatnot, and then you'll be able to recover it the next day. Just really, you got to find a way to limit yourself, because this is an addictive thing, essentially, right? You need to find rules to just control yourself. Like, it's the same thing You go to the store and you buy a bunch of bags of chips. You're gonna eat them all right away? No, you're gonna try to limit yourself. Okay, I'll have one bag of chips a day or something like that. I know it sounds ridiculous. Don't eat one bag of chips a day, but maybe one little like bite of the chocolate bar or something.
Yeah. Okay. So limit yourself. Yeah, that's great, and it's funnily enough something I decided that I was going to do this week with my own trading, because for that exact reason.
Yeah, totally.
Now, if there was one thing you recommend any retail trader spend the next month mastering, what would it be, why, and how could they go about mastering it?
Oh my gosh! Holy crap! This is a good podcast to listen to, man. These are good questions. So one thing for a novice to focus on,
well, just a retail trader, yeah. What could they spend the next month mastering? Like if they wanted to go, hey, right, go away and do this for a month. What would it be?
Yeah. There's a lot of things. I would say it's going to completely depend on the level, but the first thing that's popping out for me is focus on the reason behind why everything happens. Don't focus on trying to find a strategy and finding the pattern of rules that you need to come up with. Figure out why everything happens. And ideally, I would say put it with just candlesticks, right? And if you can figure out the logic behind market moves, then that's really going to help you in developing your own strategy.
Nice. Cool. Brilliant. Well, look, we're going to dive into a quicker round. Some of the questions might take a little while to answer, though. But anyway,
okay.
This is how I do it. So how long did it take you to go from newbie to consistently profitable?
Oh, it was quite quick when I jumped to Forex. It was maybe, I like to say 6 months, but it was probably a little bit longer than that because I had found a strategy that was profitable after about 6 months of joining Forex. But it probably took me a few more months than that. Crypto, I was doing it for about 2 years before that.
What's your favorite entry setup?
Favorite entry setup is a New York Open sweeping reversal.
What strategies do you use to exit or manage active trades?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I will only ever exit a trade early if a reverse entry appears. So if I'm willing to enter the opposite direction, then I will exit. Aside from that, I will always wait for my targets.
No moving stops to break even or anything like that?
I will. Okay, so I am very slow at moving my stops until it's very clear that price will not wick back down there and then continue their direction. So essentially it has to create a very strong base and then move to another level. So it has to basically be like 2 stairs up, and then I will move it.
Do you have a recommended trading book or resource people can check out?
Yeah. Mark Douglas. I think everyone's going to say that. Every freaking... You probably heard that interview answer over and over again. Mark Douglas, Trading in the Zone.
Yeah, that's one of the top ones. There's a couple of others as well.
Market Wizards is all right.
Yeah, there's pretty standard books that people will recommend. That's a cool one. What's your preferred broker and trading platform?
Preferred broker, I'm in BC, Canada. I would say if I could use any broker, it would be IC Markets, but unfortunately, I have to use some of these Seychelles offshore brokers.
Oh yeah.
And I don't really get the best ones, but I'm using FX Choice.
And your trading platform?
You mean like MetaTrader 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any options. I can only use MetaTrader 4 in BC.
Now, do you want to walk us through your worst ever trade?
Oh my god. It could be a little bit of a story, maybe.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm just trying to think if there's one that's kind of better, but well, aside from just losing tens of thousands of dollars, early stages of just letting my money drop in Bitcoin. There was a guy, I'll make the story super, super brief because I actually want to post this story to my YouTube channel at some point because I think it's hilarious. Is that he was talking about how he was flipping Bitcoin from like 0.1 Bitcoin to like 10 Bitcoin or whatever in just a couple months. And it was basically him using a DCA strategy. And after a while, I had kind of believed him that this was working because he just kept winning. He was making the calls in live chat. And I was following along. I was listening. I was saying, okay, this is great. This is great. Like, you're so good, right? And so I started adding more money and following along. And then we like tripled our money in like a couple weeks. And then all of a sudden, Bitcoin did one of its classic things where it just dumped and his DCAs just all got obliterated. And basically the worst trade of my life because I lost everything I had on that account there in a second. Everything was just gone instantly, basically, because we listened to somebody who we thought he knew what he was talking about. It was too good to be true.
That's pretty quick, though. That's pretty quick. Usually, people can at least see it going down.
Yeah, it was maybe not a second, but I was at work and I had gone to grab some water and then it started dropping and I was like, oh crap, DCA, and then it was gone. Right, it was within a couple seconds. Right.
Okay, last question of the show. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Completely unrelated to trading. The only thing that matters in your life is your personal sense of well-being. By that, I mean that you have to do whatever is necessary to create the most optimal life for yourself, and nothing in life else matters. You can be generous if that creates a happier version of yourself, or you can do things that make long-term happiness. Try not to find the instant gratifications of things because, again, all you really ever want to do is focus on your own growth, your own happiness, right? Kind of like a monk thing, but it's something I kind of live by.
Nice. I like it. That's the first time anyone's actually done a non-trading piece of advice, and I think that's cool. I like that.
It's cool, yeah.
I might even get people to just say this is not a trading advice.
Yeah.
Give us some advice. Some life advice. Give us some life advice.
Give us some life advice, yeah. Totally.
Okay, right. Before we wrap up, what's the best way for the guys to get hold of you?
There's Hunter FX YouTube. And then if you want to get a hold of me, you would have to join that Discord in one of the videos in the link in the description, and then message me within the Discord. There's a ton of stuff in the descriptions there.
Well, look, a big thank you to Chris for sharing with us today. Everything we discussed here along with all the links are in the show notes. To find them, simply search for Chris Hunter in the search box on tradingnut.com. Until next time, I wish all my listeners trading happiness and success. So there we have it, folks. Interview with Chris done and dusted. Now, do remember to check out the little video we shot after the show where Chris is going to walk you through a few things on a price chart. It's worthwhile checking out over there at YouTube. And whilst you're there, do remember to subscribe, click the notifications bell, click all so you don't miss those TradingView replay challenges and the Build That Bot series that is running there as well. Folks, hope you enjoyed the show today. Now, do remember, if you do want the free training to learn how to do automated trading, then head over there, tradingnut.com. There's a free training that you can sign up to, and we've got a promo this August 2020. If you're listening to this in the future, check it out anyway. Who knows what you'll find. All right, guys, see you on the next episode or over there on YouTube.